Hello, and you are listening to Fcast, the podcast for Fruitless Pursuits, where we bullshit about the week in pop culture. I am Luke.
And I'm Jacinta.
And this week we are talking about...
movies, television, collectibles, video games, comics, books, board games, and more.
White people.
Horrible, terrible white people. They are absolute pricks, aren't they?
I know.
Whiteys.
The cause of all the world's problems.
Yeah. And, I don't even think we're being sarcastic anymore, considering the sort of state of current events. Yeah. When will we become the hunted?
Well, I mean, hopefully never. Hopefully no one's getting hunted ever.
Yes.
Hopefully that's the kind of neutiral ground that we hit.
I sound like a conspiracy theorist now. I don't believe that we're being hunted. I just... we saw Get Out. That's what we're getting at.
Yeah, we're not just starting off with a rant against white people.
What's wrong with being proud of being white?
Though, to be fair, any podcast could serve for having a What's Wrong with White People start all the time.
That's true.
Yeah. There was actually, I saw someone put up on Facebook, and people are debating whether it's a piss take or an actual thing in Northbridge. There's a couple of posters that have gone up that are basically like, be proud to be white kind of thing.
Yes.
And there is a definite suggestion that these are joke posters and sort of ridiculing a lot of that imagery. But you could also see people who are pro that kind of thing going, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, no,
Yeah,
I don't buy it as a joke. I think that's been the defense through all sorts of things like the, we're back to when we were watching the live stream, the Shia LaBeouf, He Will Not Divide Us, when it was like, oh, we're doing Nazi things, but it's ironic. And that happened with PewDiePie on YouTube, and it's like, oh, no,
these are illustrations, though, showing, one of them does show some pretty cliched, obnoxious bogan behaviour with it, and the other one is sort of a basic blonde girl in a flower crown. So people are kind of saying, well, is this kind of lampooning that sort of basic white person culture, or is it serious? So the jury is still out at the moment.
I don't know. This is going to come up as we start to discuss. We're getting heavy so early. As we discuss Get Out, it's almost like, when it comes to shit like that, I just feel, especially now, like, who are we to even decide whether something like that is offensive or not, Like, we're not. Like, we're not the people that it, like, affects.
It's like, maybe if it's towing the line, maybe, like, don't do it.
Yeah, I just don't feel comfortable, like, saying, oh, yeah, no, look, it's fine, it's satire or whatever, because if it's making people feel like shit, and I'm not saying it is or it isn't, and, to talk about it, you have to speak for somebody else. And I can't. So, yeah. Wow. Pop culture, fun and games, things and stuff. We're going to have a little bit of news. There's not really any new trailers, although there was something I did see that I'd like to talk about. We're going to review Get Out. I did see Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm not allowed to talk about it. Even though...
So why mention it, dude?
This is past embargo, but you're not going to let me talk about
That's right.
And, and then we might talk a little bit about TV. We're thinking about doing some, what we've been watching, because I love to get suggestions from people for what to watch. And, maybe we'll hit upon some things that might appeal to you, or maybe not. So, God, this first story kind of ties a bit into this whole race debacle.
Oh, a little bit, yeah. So the ABC and Netflix have announced that they're teaming up to do a 8 or 10 episode series of The Legend of Monkey. So, the Monkey King and the monks, and they go on their journey and do whatever they're doing.
Pigsy, Sandy, Tripitaka.
Yep, and Monkey. And, so people are getting a little bit up in arms. You know how people get that, oh, my childhood is going to be ruined, because obviously the series from the 70s? Is that when it was?
I think so.
Yeah, it looks pretty 70s. That was on TV a lot when we were kids, and it was, I guess, for a lot of people, their first kind of introduction into Asian entertainment, really. And I mean, I loved Monkey when I was a kid. Like, we used to play Monkey in the playground. Like, everyone would want to be Sandy because you could have like a big stick and like walk around like with it over your shoulders.
This is obviously a audio medium, but there was a little bit of pantomime.
A little bit of pantomime.
There,
I couldn't work out how to describe the actions.
A Sandy impression.
Yeah,
and,
but
it wasn't bad.
Yeah, it was fine. And but I'm excited about this news. I am all for more of Monkey, and people are acting like the 70s Monkey TV show is fucking sacred and no one can ever touch it. And it's like, guys, it's like asking people not to make any more Shakespeare adaptations or King Arthur stories. The Legend of Monkey is a fucking story from the 16th century, I think, and has been getting adapted since then. So
I would have thought it would even be far older, right?
No, that's no. I looked it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't read the complaints, but I did read some of the articles about it, and what I read in terms of complaining, there was a pretty good article, sort of editorial on news.com, which was basically saying that it was from an Asian writer, an Asian perspective, and saying the problem they had with it was a Chinese legend. This is an Australian-New Zealand co-production, and only one of the actors is part Chinese, and that there's no one else is Chinese, and pointed out the fact that in the original Monkey, they were all Japanese actors as well instead of Chinese.
Yeah.
So that was problematic in itself. So it wasn't about like childhood being destroyed. What I don't get, and I couldn't find anything sort of satisfactory here to... Just for some context for American listeners as well, if you're wondering why this show is important, particularly to Australians, I think you've got to realise, like in the 70s, early 80s, and as someone who was a child at that time, I know living in Canberra, which is our nation's capital, and not Canberra, Canberra, you would only have two channels. You had one commercial channel, and you had the ABC, which is the Australian Broadcasting Network. So your options were incredibly limited in terms of what you could watch. And Monkey was a staple. Monkey Magic, it's got a great theme song. And so it was just unavoidable at that time. So people are passionate about
even.
It. That's right. I kind of wish that I had the song queued up and we could play a little bit of it in case anybody hasn't heard it, because the theme song alone is wonderful. But what I don't understand is a lot of these articles are saying a reboot. I don't see how it has any connection to that particular 70s series. So
it doesn't, but it's...
So it's just another adaptation of this story, which has been adapted hundreds of times already, including recent like big screen adaptations like The Monkey King with Donnie Yen. Yeah,
there's been like 5 in the last 5 years.
So is that just marketing to kind of draw attention to the old series and say, oh, look, it's...
Maybe, or people... I think there are genuinely people out there that don't understand that it's a thing beyond that series.
Which is bizarre.
But I am very confident there's people out there that think that.
Yeah. Because it's like, like you said, like adapting a Shakespeare or a Bible story or something like that. It's just around for a long time. Whereas this article I read, that the problem was he was saying that it's like doing a Dreamtime story without Indigenous actors. It's like, it just doesn't make sense in that regard. Whereas I don't see a connection to that particular series. And I don't think it's something... The only way you could reboot that original series, you would think it would have to have some sort of production company in common or creator in common. And it's funny you mentioned Netflix. I didn't realize there was a Netflix connection as well. I mean, you look at what Netflix does when it does take a old series and bring it back. It actually has kept it, for good or for bad, incredibly faithful to the original. I mean, you look at Fuller House, you look at Gilmore Girls, you look at something we're going to talk about a bit later, MST3K. It's like they never stopped. And I think because that old series is so tied to that theme song and that look and that feel, unless you are mining that, I don't know how you would connect it. I mean, otherwise, I just think it's like, okay, so famous story is getting adapted again, and who gives a shit? Like, why, it's either going to be good or it's going to be bad. Why anyone would worry about the other adaptations in the past, I don't know. Yeah,
the picture of the cast gives me and I mean, obviously it's being filmed in New Zealand as well, gives me real Hercules vibes. which, I mean, I'm happy about. I loved Hercules, but I can't imagine that many people these days are going to watch something that's done in the vein of Hercules and go, oh, yeah, that's really good.
I thought it looked like fucking Disney Descendants.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Yeah. So, no, I mean, I think it's aiming at a younger audience. And, yeah, I mean, it could be very loosely based. I mean, there's been all sorts of things as well that are just very loosely inspired. Do you remember that, God, I'm trying to think what it was called. It was a video game with Andy Serkis doing all the motion capture for the monkey-like character, and there was a pigsy-like character.
Oh.
And it was set in a dystopian... Enslaved? And it was set in a dystopian future, and they were...
I know which one.
Yeah, and they were journeying to the West.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the story's so broad in a way that you could kind of say, well, yeah, it's based on that.
Yeah.
In the same way that 10 Things I Hate About You is
true.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So I don't know. That's, again, it's what we always come back to. Like, you can't fucking jump and have a big rant because of a headline.
Yeah.
It's going to depend on what this thing even is. I just looked at the picture and thought, well, this isn't aimed at me, and I can't see what connection it has to that one adaptation of this story that I grew up with. And then even again, like, I just don't think that even if it was the same people and it was a direct, like, reboot continuation, I never understand why people think that affects the thing that they originally liked. I mean, Gus Van Sant remade Psycho with Vince Vaughn. That hasn't affected Hitchcock's Psycho. You know, like,
yeah.
I didn't like the Kinnaman RoboCop. I haven't thought about it since, apart from using it in this example all the time. I mean, I still think of Peter Weller RoboCop, and most people will. Like, it doesn't change things. People, you know, it's the same with bad sequels, or it doesn't make the original a problem.
And I think that I can't imagine many of these people who are complaining about, you know, the show that they used to love being probably thrown into a fire and the original film torched and we can never see it again, probably haven't seen it in the last 15 to 20 years. And I loved it as a kid, and when I was sort of probably early 20s, they started showing it again after Rage or Recovery or whatever, and I was watching it going, oh, this is not quite what I remember when I was a kid. Like, it's fun, but it's not, like, that good.
It's charming. Like, it's got a really interesting aesthetic. I mean, that's the thing. It's so specific. It's such a part of that time that like I said, I can't even imagine how you would try and connect the two. I did have a look at while I was reading up on this, and it was funny because I wasn't going to read up on it. I was like, I knew you said, let's talk about that. I was thinking I'll let you explain it to me. And then I thought, oh, I'll have a quick look. And it is like your reaction is to go, well, what did I hear? I'm going to, you know, what was the headline? I'm going to react to that. But it was interesting to read someone's perspective and say, well, this is why I have an issue with it, and this is what's happened. And I think often we don't read the story. We just read the headline and then have our reaction about, oh, well, that's crazy. And you go, well, hang on. It's not really. I mean, it's a whole lot of nothing. I think them even evoking that series is just marketing. Like, I think it's just they know that was something that people remember, and they're going, hey, you remember that? We're doing something like that. Great. So there's that. We, of course, enjoyed Fast and the Furious.
Enjoyed very much, yes.
Enjoyed very much last week. And to be fair, Vin Diesel's my biggest sticking point in that thing. And look, we talked about that ad nauseum, but there's news now that perhaps there'll be a spin-off movie, which makes sense because there's so much fucking money these things make. And starring Hobbs and Deckard.
Great.
And I thought, wow, okay. And then I had to look up who Hobbs and Deckard were.
Oh, God.
Because I did realise, having watched the film, I don't know anybody's name.
Okay.
So is it Luke Hobbs?
Yes.
And that's The Rock?
Yes.
And Deckard is Statham?
Yes.
Okay, so I said that those two looked like they were going to bang any moment. So I think a film that explores their relationship, maybe even a kind of two men and a baby sort of situation, perhaps. A baby.
There is a baby.
Turns up. Yeah, oh yeah, that's true. Looking after Trotto's baby. I read the story on Ain't It Cool News, and apparently when one of the earlier episodes one of the earlier films came out, the writer for Ain't It Cool said, tweeted that there should be a Kurt Russell Rock movie. Mm-hmm. And Rock wrote back and was like, oh, that's smart, man. Like, there's been talk of a Hobbs spin-off for a while. But there's been a complication or an obstacle or something. I bet you anything that obstacle's got to be a potato-shaped Vin Diesel obstacle.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, there was that whole big story during the last film, whether it was all marketing and whatever, but that they were having a massive feud.
Yeah, right.
And that's why they weren't really in the movie very much together. They hated each other's guts, and then all the news stories are coming out now going, oh, well, the movie's made heaps of money, so they're friends again.
Because, honestly, if you had to watch a movie, a Fast and the Furious movie that was, like, if they did start to split off, that was Vin Diesel version or the Rock and Statham version, you would have to go for the latter.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I mean, it's going to happen eventually anyway. Like, I'm sure Vin Diesel will want to keep going until he's, in a wheelchair and supercharging his fucking electric wheelchair, but
I almost feel like, great, let me just sit them out, and when we get to that movie, I'll come back. I'll watch that movie. That movie sounds good.
But if they're going to try and continue this franchise, then they're going to have new teams.
Yeah.
They're going to have to evolve that team beyond, obviously Paul Walker's gone. Vin Diesel's going to have to move on at some point and let other people take charge of this thing.
Where did Paul Walker go? Because he wasn't in it very much either, was he?
I know. Maybe he was just having a break.
Yeah. Okay. So, there you go. So, look, even more Fast and the Furious for me to complain about. That will be very, very exciting. But, yeah, look, if you can have Vin Diesel sort of with Old Man Logan beard in a super-powered, turbocharged wheelchair with the Force Ghost of Paul Walker, then I'm back in.
Okay.
But up until otherwise, yeah, let's see Hobbs and Deckard getting to know each other a little bit better and sort of, God, because they're the original odd couple, am I right?
Absolutely.
They are a big, old, beefy, bald yin-yang.
Though that aside, I do love Jason Statham in that kind of action comedy kind of thing. I loved him in Spy. I thought he was great in that, and he was one of the best things about the newest Fast and the Furious movie. So give me more Deckard. Even if it's just the Deckard brothers. Give me more Owen Deckard. I want that.
I want to see them just making out on a mountain. Okay. Something like that.
It doesn't have to be a mountain. It could be like a yacht. What if they're just like getting some sun on a yacht, making out?
I would like to see them kissing each other in the shower.
Okay.
Because there's been so much tension.
Like 50 Shades of Grey style, where they've got all their clothes on and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, keep it an action movie, but that's the way to be progressive with this series. Is like, when you think about that audience as well, I think it'd be really good for them. Take two characters that they love, who clearly have a lot of unresolved tension. And I don't believe they don't have partners, do they?
No. I don't think so. Haven't got a lot of Deckard backstory, I don't think.
Yeah.
He's got a mum.
Yeah.
And a brother.
That's great. And they would be, I think they would be all for it. I think they would be fine with it. I think Helen Mirren would actually be quite chuffed. And that could be really quite good. I mean, what about that even? It's a sort of meet the parents deal where he has to bring the Rock to London and, fish out of water because, it's an hour and a half movie. So how many times can he mention tea and crumpets and the Queen and stuff? Like, he's going to run out of material really quickly and then he's going to be lost. And then Statham's going to have to help him through it. Yeah. Lovely. All right. Now, speaking of The Rock, there's another movie that is not only sort of being made, I think it's just started shooting. And this is quite interesting when you hear this cast and also what this movie is. Okay, so you don't know about this.
No.
It's called Rampage. Stars The Rock, Naomi Harris, Joe Manganiello, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and Marlon Ackerman. This is based on a video game from the 80s.
Right.
Now, this video game, very simple, a series of skyscrapers, and you play as either like the Wolfman, a King Kong type, or a Godzilla type.
Okay.
And you climb up the buildings and you punch them and you eat people and you smash cars and you punch each other and you want to cause as much destruction. But you are actually a human that's been transformed into one of those things. So when the game's over, you transform into a little naked human who covers their genitals and sort of crab walks sideways off the screen. So I don't know what they're cast as, but I'd be very surprised if Johnson, Manganiello, and Jeffrey Dean Morgan are not said Godzilla, Wolfman, and King Kong, like 3 big dudes who transform into these things and go on a rampage. I think this has legs.
Yeah, I'm into that.
Yeah, I think this is interesting. And I think they're definitely going to be doing the nude shuffle too.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think Joe Manganiello just has it written in his contract that he gets his gear off.
Yep. So I think yes, these 3 guys turning into. Although I think Lizzie was a female, because I think you got to see a little tiny pixel boobs.
Right.
So it's possible that maybe like Malin Ackerman is one of the monsters. I don't know, but I think 3 of them are going to be monsters. And this could, they talk about the video game curse. Video game movies aren't very good. I can't imagine like they're going to get a plot out of this that is particularly good. But it might be a bit of fun.
Yeah, right.
So
interesting.
Looking forward to hearing more about that. And the only other thing, and this was news from the last week, but we didn't actually talk about it, which is funny because we talked about all the rumours, but not the confirmation. Cable was cast, and it's Josh Brolin. Which...
Obviously they just went, we can't be bothered looking anymore. Who have we already got on the payroll? Oh, that guy. He hasn't actually physically been in a movie yet. Let's get that guy.
It's very safe casting.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Like, it's really easy to imagine what a Josh Brolin... Cable is going to be like.
Yep.
But that said, you know it's 100% going to work because he's so reliable and so great in that straight-faced, grumpy but comedic role.
I saw a photo of him on Twitter or Facebook or something the other day, and they must be doing like a head mold or something so that they can do all his... Because he has like
he has a good glowing
bionic kind of eye
yeah.
stuff, yeah. And they had his whole head and shoulders in that kind of goo cast thing, and he's just sitting there, like, looking on his phone, just covered in this shit. And I'm just like, I can't even look at that. I know he's probably got, like, little nose holes to breathe out of, but his mouth was completely covered, and I'm just like, oh.
I wouldn't be surprised if we get a picture of him in character or a little teaser or something relatively soon, because they are constantly trying to remind us that Deadpool is a thing that still exists. So I imagine there will be a lot of lead up of those 2 just making videos fucking around. So yeah, that's a bit of fun. And I guess joining that group of people that have 2 different Marvel characters.
Yeah, those people that have a nice healthy bank balance and 2 Marvel characters.
Although it's not like Thanos has had a lot of screen time of late.
No. But surely there's still more money in sitting around being Thanos than working in most of the other movies that Josh Brolin would have been in.
God, Thanos needs to be playing like a phone or something that he can play on, just sitting up on that
big galactic iPhone
all the time out in space. Boring as all get out.
He's just sitting there playing Flappy Bird.
Now,
for 1,000 years.
Yes, yeah, I'd be pissed off too. So, I don't believe there are any new trailers of note, although when I saw Guardians, I got to see the Pirates of the Caribbean trailer that I haven't seen yet. And they sort of preceded that. It flowed seamlessly into the trailer, but with basically like an uninterrupted, about 3-minute scene from the film. And that first trailer had made me semi-interested to see the new Ghost and no Jack Sparrow, and it was very atmospheric and moody. Also, I like some of the imagery we've seen in the trailers, like the shot from under the water of the bottom of the boat with the zombie shark circling. Very atmospheric. Your imagination starts to go wild as to what that might look like. I got to see the zombie shark scene. Not the resolution of it, but the sort of leading up to the climax of it, including where that shot falls. And apart from that shot, it's not a very atmospheric scene. And Jack Sparrow is as annoying as fuck as you would expect. It's really kind of bland, obvious writing, and it has that pantomime feel of it's just one-liner, and then like sort of wink, nudge, hey, look, you know, we're telling jokes. There's nothing organic feeling about it. It was Jack, Brendan Thwaites, and the girl on a boat, and they were just out in the middle daylight. They were racing away from the pirate ship, and they were basically talking about her undressing and... Yeah. And then the zombie sharks turned up, and really, like, having seen that shot before and picturing something really atmospheric and nice, it just felt like they were out in a pool in a studio with some CG, just reacting to things that weren't there, that jumped around them. Like, you know, there wasn't a lot of actual interaction. It was just, oh, I'm shocked there's a shark. But yeah, Jack kind of sucked, and he was in a lot of the trailer that came afterwards doing one-liners and things, and I think it's run its course. And I think that's a shame, because Disney's... I understand why they're making it, because those movies, even when they've been horrible, have made tons of money. But, you know, Alice in Wonderland was, in my opinion, the sequel was their one misstep last year. I mean, they had such a great year of movies, even things that people don't really talk about, like Pete's Dragon. You know, it was a good film. It was well put together. Dragon, yeah. So I have a feeling that their misstep this year is going to be Pirates, and so more Johnny Depp, basically.
Yeah, it's kind of that thing. Like, they were never going to win this one. Like, I just feel like even when they made the decision to have another Pirates movie, it was never going to be a winner, because I think people are over Jack Sparrow, and I think people are over Johnny Depp, frankly.
I do too. I think it has probably come to an end there. I noticed that, I don't know if I'd seen this in previous trailers, you might remember, but it does specifically say in this one that this is the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they'd said that before anyway.
So, I don't know. I'm sure we will end up seeing it anyway. But, yeah, not great. He grates, speaking of great, not great, and yet he grates on me when I watch him clowning around.
Yeah, I found that very much in the last one. All the stuff without Jack was much better, but it wasn't good still. Like, the last one it's kind of a pretty average movie, and then you drag it down by having too much Jack Sparrow in it. Well,
this little rowboat with these two of the characters were blocks of wood, just sort of bland. I'm the woman. Like, she was strong, but... Yeah, and I'm the pretty boy, and then I'm Jack, and I'm just wacky, and I'm going to take over everything you're talking about.
I'm going to chew all this scenery more than a zombie shark.
Yeah, well, that's right. I'm surprised he didn't start eating them. It was not great.
It's a bad day when it's a bad movie when you're actually looking forward to Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley being in it.
Well, I don't know if they're in the trailer.
I don't think so, but they are in the film. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's do our feature review for the week. Get Out, which we saw last night. It hasn't opened properly here, but there were some advanced screenings. I don't know if it's getting a full run. I hope it is. Tricky film to talk about because it's best if you don't know too much about it. We certainly had seen the trailers. The trailers do show a fair bit, but they don't really tell you what the game is, what the central premise is. And I think discovering that is one of the most interesting things about the film. So we certainly be careful not to give away any spoilers. That said, let's start talking very general terms. How'd you go?
I liked it. This was one that I was so unsure about going to see because, I've said before that I'm not really good with scary movies, and I had heard that this was, that kind of movie, but I'd also heard people saying how great it was and how unique it was, and so I was really, really, really wanted to see it. And good news, not a horror film. Probably a thriller, if anything.
Yeah.
But even then, it's a pretty, I guess, light thriller. I didn't have that kind of tightness in my chest like I did with something like Don't Breathe.
Yeah.
There wasn't that sort of thing, but it was so engaging in that you just wanted to see this puzzle keep being unlocked and unlocked and unlocked and unlocked, and to see how the story was being resolved. It wasn't that, it wasn't that real tension that is just like, oh my God, there's going to be jump scares in a second, and it was just sort of a feeling of, unease. There was something wrong in every scene.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm very glad we saw it. I think it's a very interesting film. I think it's a film that you need to take some time away from and kind of ponder. And the good thing about it is that it is that type of film that sticks with you and that does give you room to think and to sort of reassess. Even some of the things we talked about in the car last night when we were talking about specifics that I was sort of questioning, I feel better about today. Because I think I wasn't too sure once things start to get more clear how I felt about that, how I felt that matched up to the promise, and now I realise that there's probably a lot more that's sort of going on subtly there, and it's about fetishism and appropriation and those sorts of things. This is the very first film directed by Jordan Peele from Key and Peele, and he did an excellent job. Like, it's so beautifully put together, and his way of taking some things, like the things that are more of a leap of faith, those things where you go, am I going to buy into this? He sells it so well, just because it's so beautifully put together, or he puts an extra layer of import on something which could be quite silly in the wrong hands, and he makes it very believable and very engaging. So I was really impressed with that, because I was sort of saying this afterwards when we were chatting. There's this idea that if you had someone that was just really adept at thrillers, you would miss that layer of humour that's in here as well, and the way that he makes the characters very real and relatable, particularly in that first half. And the fact that he's good with comedy, he's good with people, he's good with dialogue, because he wrote this as well, and that he understands that, it just becomes a bonus that he's also able to layer on the thriller elements on top of that. And I think he's a rare find in that way, because I think there are people that could have played this as a thriller but wouldn't have found the characters with that sort of warmth and humour that is in there.
Yeah, and I think the comedy element really does contribute to how unique it is, because it's having the comedy almost makes it more unsettling in some way, because it starts off as quite a casual kind of funny movie, but this shit's going to start to get serious at some point, so they're kind of joking around and like, no, don't joke, something bad's about to happen. And it does continue through, and the reaction of the audience was kind of the most interesting thing to me, because there'd be comedy and there'd be drama and thriller, and the lines kind of almost got blurred at some point, and the audience are reacting in a way to certain things that in a normal situation they would never react to stuff like that.
But it's because he had done the work. He had built up such a specific context to what was happening, which was so unique to this film, that people had a reaction to certain things that I guarantee they would have the opposite reaction to in any other film. And I think that's what was so masterful about it, because you can't give it away, unfortunately. It's something very specific that I know you're referring to. Yeah, it hit me as well. It's just the absolute opposite reaction you would normally get seeing something like that unfold. But because of all the work he'd done, he'd reversed things so amazingly that we were on this side and sort of rooting for something. The audience was rooting for something that you've never seen.
Awful.
That you've never seen them do before.
Yeah.
And it was because of such a specific set of circumstances. And the script is very tight in that way. It's full of foreshadowing. It's full of, everything happens for a reason and it all unfolds in a certain way. Now, the fact that this film is about race and race sort of permeates all the way through this, I think is its masterstroke because it's already a topic which is uncomfortable to talk about. It's something that no matter what side of it you're on, it's they're difficult waters. And I think that because you know that this is going to make commentary on race and how we perceive race and how we talk about race, you are waiting for all this to unfold. And for me, that hyped up the tension because you know it's about a topic that is just as relevant as ever. You are really already on edge, and the humour sometimes diffuses that because it comes when you're not expecting it. And that said, the humour for me doesn't makes it more real because it's the way people talk about things in real life. It's reactions to situations that are more realistic, and people do find humour in things. And I think he humanised it by having that element. So yeah, I just think the fact that it is about race already has you just in that right mood for a thriller. You're sort of feeling uneasy all the way through, and even when you don't exactly know why it is or what it is, what's going to happen. I think that you could certainly have a lot of discussions about this and start to unravel it as it goes on. When there's always this problem when it's a mystery as to what's going on, that when you find out, maybe it's not going to live up to the promise of finding out. I feel like maybe there's a little bit of that. I think there's a few phases to what's going on, and I felt like it was maybe a hat wearing a hat. You start to go, well, did you need to do this to then get to this to get to this?
Yeah, and I mean, they kind of explain it, but it still doesn't seem a solid explanation to justify that.
Yeah, and I also feel like because there are so many interesting layers there that maybe that's not a fair assessment after one viewing as well. Maybe I would understand and appreciate that a little bit better going through a second time. I'm not sure. Because I do feel like it's well crafted. I think everything happens for a reason. There was something towards the end which sorry again that we're talking vague, but hopefully this is just sort of piquing your interest to see it. Towards the end where I said to you, I thought it was going to go this way and it went that way. And you pointed out to me, well, I think that point was made even with what was done. And the more I think about that, you're 100% right. Like it was definitely the right thing to do. So that gut reaction is usually about expectation, and the fact that something doesn't fall into expectation shouldn't be something to criticize it for because, I mean, ultimately that's what you've got to say, isn't it? That it's a unique film. Like, you haven't seen this film before.
And the thing that I kind of liked also is that, word and non-spoilery way, but when the movie finishes, even though you don't get to see things unfolding and how that kind of situation would be seen or resolved from outside people coming in, you can tell of the way the pieces are at the end. You could see someone walking in and going, okay, this is what happened, and it's completely different to what actually happened. I liked that as well.
Yeah. It's it's a good film. Like, it stuck with me. We on our own personal letterbox, we give things sort of stars based on our enjoyment. I think we both gave this 4.
Yeah,
I mean, so I'm not talking about like it's one of these 5-star that I'm coming out raving about.
Yeah, I could, if I saw it again, it might push to a 4.5. I rarely give anything 5 ever.
Yeah, but it's definitely the best movie I've seen this week.
I think it would be unlikely that this wouldn't be. Well, look, this will probably definitely be in my top 20 on uniqueness alone. Probably likely to be top 10. Like, it's nicely crafted and it's different. Like, we like to. I mean, we champion the stuff that we like, but we also champion the stuff that is doing something different to everything else out there. And this does that.
Yeah. And I feel like, I know you didn't like it as much, but I feel like we've been kind of lucky in that the last couple of weeks. The fact that we have had Colossal and this, those types of movies that just aren't being championed massively.
I think Get Out is being championed. Like, I think a lot of people are talking about Get Out.
Oh, yeah. I think critically it's been great. I don't know if it's going to, like, how wide a release or what's going to happen in that respect.
Well, I mean,
it was a decent showing last night.
Yeah, I mean, if the megaplexes and multiple megaplexes were doing advanced screenings this weekend, maybe just to test the waters, and there were pretty healthy turnouts, I think. So I imagine it'll get a relatively wide release.
But it's yeah, I mean, they're never like Fast and the Furious movies.
Oh no,
you know,
but
like there was a lot of buzz around Swiss Army Man, and that was one of the most unique movies of last year. But when you actually look at those sort of box office numbers, they're usually pretty shockingly low compared to other things. But yeah, so if you do get a chance, if that piques your interest and you're looking for something a bit different, then
and not scary.
And no, not too scary, but very engaging.
Yeah.
Very gripping. It had me from start to finish.
Speaking of scary, I think we'd had down this week because I think Get Out is not for another 2 weeks or something it comes out. So initially I had Raw down this week, like R-A-W, the one about the vet student that becomes a cannibal or something. I'm like, oh, that sounds pretty interesting. And then I watched the trailer and I went, we're not doing that, because there was a scene where it was like, you know, like if you get really badly sunburnt and your skin starts peeling, there was just a bit in the trailer where they were peeling someone's skin off like that. And I went, oh, no thanks. So this was a much better choice, I think.
Well, there you go. Yeah, What's next week? Oh, Guardians.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we got some nice things coming up. We've got King Arthur, Alien, Covenant, John Wick, stuff to do. Alrighty. Well, shall we just have a little bit of a brief chat about TV? Things that we've been watching? Anything you've been watching this week of note?
I haven't been watching a lot. I'm not sure what I've been doing. I did watch something today that really did interest me, and I'm just quickly checking on my phone for the name of it again. Tales by Light is a Netflix series in partnership with Canon Australia. So it's a photography series, little 20-minute episodes or so. And it follows different Australian photographers who are obviously Canon users, and kind of exploring like what they do, how they do it, and I guess just their sort of journey as photographers and that sort of thing.
They just press that little button on the top, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Some of them I was sort of watching going, it's not that fucking hard, guys. And it's interesting because I, for 10 years I was doing one particular type of photography, and you do get so kind of stuck in your own sort of genre that it's really good to watch the way other people's process and their sort of challenges and that sort of thing and what they're doing. The first episode was a guy who was an underwater photographer. Second one was a guy who, like, half the episode he was doing some wildlife stuff. The other half he went to like some festivals in India and the Himalayas and stuff, was covering those. And then the third one was a woman who was like an extreme sports
I think
kind of.
she took photos of food she was going to eat for Instagram.
Well, yeah. She's like an extreme sports kind of photographer, and I actually liked her episode the least, unfortunately, just because I guess it was the other guys were a more documentary kind of style, which is something I enjoy more, and hers were a little bit more controlled and I don't want to say contrived, but they were just a little bit more constructed than this sort of thing that I enjoy. But it's a great series. The cinematography in it is sometimes even better than the photos that the photographers produce. The guys have got all these drones and they're filming them going into these temples and stuff, and it's fucking amazing. For a quick little 20-minute TV show, it's well worth it.
What was that name again?
Tales by Light.
Tales by Light. Okay, I've been watching a few things. I checked out the first episode of Last Kingdom, which you actually mentioned to me.
I think I've seen the first 2. I don't think I pushed on with that one.
It's a bit weird after Vikings because a lot of the same characters.
Yeah, you get it. I think that's the reason I messaged you about it, because I'm like, oh shit, Ragnar's in this. And there's Ragnar the Elder and Ragnar the Younger.
And Ragnar the Younger does have that bit of a female vibe about him.
Yeah, he does.
So it's really weird. Like, I feel like I could start to conflate the two things in my head if I kept with it.
Yeah, because it's a very kind of almost Athelstan-y sort of story.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
An English kid gets taken by the Vikings and starts to live with them and then learns their culture and...
They begin to like him and respect him and... Yeah, but he grows up, doesn't he, at the end of that first episode?
Yeah, he does.
And that kind of put me off a bit, in a way. I was like, I was kind of interested in what they were setting up initially, so...
It does get interesting in the second sort of episode where they... there's another group of Danes who are kind of coming in and causing shit and... sort of dislodges the kid from his sort of situation, and he's kind of on the run, and the English people think he's a Viking, and the Vikings don't really like him either because he's an English person, and he's just kind of got all this shit that he's trying to deal with and trying to get to one of the kings, I think, for Sanctuary, and it's sort of it starts to get a little bit more interesting then, I think.
Yeah, I might pick it back up. At the moment, what I'm watching the most is MST 3K. I miss this for the 20 odd 30 years, whatever it is that it's been running.
Yeah.
I never saw it. Like, I didn't even know of it being on in Australia. Where was it?
I think the movie was on TV here a few times, and that's what my introduction to it was.
Yeah.
And then obviously once the internet and file sharing and stuff like that started happening, like I was watching Mystery Science Theater 3000 long before like you'd introduced me to riff tracks and stuff like that.
Yeah. Which is Mike Nelson, isn't it? Riff Tracks, I think, yeah. And sort of branching off.
Yeah, I haven't actually watched any of the new ones, but yeah, I'm a big fan of it. It's exactly the sort of
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's exactly the sort of shit that I love. It's people sitting there like shitting on old bad movies. Yeah. It's great.
Well, it is. It's really addictive because there's this sort of part of me that wants to go initially, it's not that funny, or... especially the older ones.
Once you get into the groove of it, it's
the
so
skits
funny.
aren't that great, but it is really good.
Yeah.
And those movies are really interesting just to begin with. And then the fact that you have this commentary going over the top makes it even more bearable. So what I did is I watched all of because they did a best of on Netflix of the older ones. They picked 16 or something episodes. So I watched those. And then I did watch the new series, and we were talking about that before, this idea that Netflix takes things and makes it feel like it never ended, and the aesthetic and the format, it's great. New guy, new people doing the robots, which is consistent with the fact that now there's been 3 sets of cast, and Felicia Day and Patton Oswalt are the Mads in it, and... yeah, it's quite funny because they still do a lot of references to like 70s, 80s material, but then you will get like a Guardians of the Galaxy reference or something like that in the new ones, and that's kind of quite fun to have that in. But I think not much to say about it because people are huge fans and know it and love it. But one thing I will say, which I really admire, is the deep cuts, like just the fact that they will make references to really obscure things, which particularly with younger people are going to sail right over their heads, but it doesn't stop them. And I really admire that because I think that a lot of systems are in place to stop you from doing that, discouraging you from doing that, and things become really... that's how things become really dumbed down. But the fact that they're so confident in their audience, and there's something about, like, I remember this as a kid, like, you might not know what the reference is, but you recognize it's a reference. If you're interested, you find out more about it, and back then, okay, you might just ask friends or talk about it or whatever, but like, that's how you found out about new stuff. It wasn't about, well, you don't know about this, so therefore we won't talk about it. And I really like that. I think in that respect, it's a really smart show because obviously the writer pool has a lot of different references and knowledge, and I quite enjoyed that. And it was fun to hear references from things.
Yeah,
from when I was a kid.
I saw a discussion on Facebook where people were sort of saying, well, if I've watched this movie as part of Mystery Science Theater 3000, can I log it on Letterboxd as having watched the movie? And people were like, oh, I don't know. Like, you could, but maybe it's been edited down a little bit, so maybe you shouldn't. But and people were just like, oh, what do we do? What do we do?
I went through this, and because I thought, well, I have seen these movies, I should put it on. And I found a list there are lists curated on Letterboxd to make that easier. Yeah. And the reason I didn't do it is because I'm so often, when we're doing our end of year lists and everything, I'm sorting my diary by when I added them. And I just thought there's going to just be this huge chunk of crap that I'm going to have to scroll over each time.
No, Luke, you need to do lists. I have a list.
Oh, yeah.
New releases that I've watched in the year. Well,
but I like to just go through.
Okay, so you like to make things harder for yourself.
No, I like to have the option to do both. Yeah. So, I don't know. Plus, there's so many things, and this comes up all the time, where the release date is often a year before because of, it was released in a festival or something, and then it becomes really... And there's always those movies that are in that grey zone between December and January that's like, well, they were released in America in December, and they were on everybody's list, and now they're here, and where do they go?
No, I've got a list I made myself. It's new releases watched in 2017. It's stuff released in Australian cinemas.
I've got that for 2016. I just haven't done it yet. But, I just thought it'd be a lot of goblins. And also, I thought, really, am I going to sit there and go Reptilicus as opposed to fucking Avalanche? Which one's like, is that a 1? Is it a 2 with A3s? They're all the same.
And how can you really separate it necessarily from the commentary?
No, and they're all the same. So, there's some that I enjoyed more, but Anyway, there you go. I enjoyed it. I think the new one is pretty good. So, I think that's it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because not much happened. I don't want to force it out. You can't get blood from a stone. Unless it's a bloodstone.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And we don't have any of those laying around.
Yeah. There's not... I haven't really got diversity stuff. Oh, now I know what I've been watching on TV. Another fucking Netflix thing. I was like, well, how did I lose my entire week and not watch any TV? I've been watching Ultimate Beastmaster.
Oh, yes.
Fuck yes. This is a little bit diversity because the fucking Korean hosts are so funny. It's basically like an American Ninja Warrior kind of thing. And they've got this like literal big dragon thing that they do an obstacle course through, and there's contestants from the USA, Korea, Japan, Brazil, Mexico, and Germany, and they do it in there's 2 from each country, and they kind of go through, and then the ultimate winner at the end goes into the big final to win like $50,000 or something, and each country has 2 hosts as well that are doing their own commentary. So if obviously watching the English version, it's Terry Crews and Carissa Thompson or someone like that. And but they do cut over to the other hosts while their particular person is going, and the Korean host just gets so fucking excited when their guys do well. They start dancing and they're singing, and all the other hosts are going, what the fuck's going on over there?
I've watched a bit of this show.
Yeah.
Sylvester Stallone is the sort of frontman at the beginning.
He's the executive producer.
Yeah,
he appears in about every 3rd episode, and he's not even there.
Yeah.
Like, he's green screened into the
And I'm
thing.
surprised. I feel like, have we not talked about this show before? Because I've talked about it. I've talked about it to people. What I think is unique about it, and I think it's so smart, it's the way of the future, because the actual show doesn't do much for me, because I'm usually making stuff or doing stuff, and it's not the sort of show you can watch while you're doing other stuff. But this ties into the diversity. The idea of sharing the production with 5 other countries is so fucking brilliant. Like, why don't more things do this? That has got to be the future. You don't build 6 obstacle courses around the world. You build one.
And then have everybody come to it.
You have contestants from all those places. You bring everyone together, and they all use the same equipment. It's even the same, like, actual runs. But then you have different commentators. Like... It's so smart. You think about all these shows with all the different, like, Iron Chefs and all that sort of stuff. Why don't you have like big international competitions and put it all on one set? Put all your money into that and then share it out through all these other countries. Like, one, you become more invested in, like, it takes away that scary other. Because you get to know regular people of other cultures and see them doing these things. And two, like, it's just so smart. Like, what a great way to do it. And then it makes everything like Eurovision.
I wish everything was like Eurovision. The one thing I love is that everyone is like kind of as obnoxious as each other. Like, the USA host will literally every episode at least 3 times go, USA, USA. But they do that in the other fucking countries too. The Mexican people are like, Mexico, Mexico. And I'm just like, I love that everyone's kind of that big obnoxious personality thing. I love it. I love this show.
Oh, yeah. That's something about those shows. They always act like it's the most important thing in this person's life. That, it's just such a big deal. It's so important. They don't want to let their parents down. Like, I don't want to I'm doing this for my mum. I don't want to let my mum down. It's like, well...
So I'm going to scale a rock wall really quickly.
Because you, fucked up on the monkey bars? That's going to be a problem at your house?
Oh, God, there was one where they, because they switch between... They've got to jump on this rope thing, and sometimes it's a rope, sometimes it's a chain, and I'm like, I don't understand why they switch it. But anyway, I think it was a Japanese guy. He grabbed the rope, but didn't grab it hard enough, and slid all the way down this rope, and they showed his hands after he got out of the pool, and his hands were just ripped. And then the next time you see him, he's got his hands completely bandaged up. I'm like, fuck, why would you do that? That's like the least fun thing ever.
Yeah.
Like, in the big scale of things.
Yeah, I don't see, like, a massive appeal in the show itself, but yeah, I really think they're onto something with that. Like, I think that's the way to do it. You just get so much mileage out of it as well.
And there's so much banter between the hosts as well, which is a lot of fun there. Like, they'll go into each other's little booths and they'll, like, shit talk each other. And
yeah, it's smart.
Yeah.
It's smart. That's what you look at it and you think, why don't everybody do this? Like, why doesn't everybody do this even?
Yeah.
I don't speak English proper. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, when I didn't know what it was at first. I was looking for something to watch, and I was like, oh, I'll just have this on in the background. Because I used to watch I can't remember what it was called, like the original Japanese version that got ripped off to make American Ninja Warrior. I used to watch that sometimes.
Is it called Ninja Warrior?
No, I don't think so. It was called something else. And yeah, so I was like, oh, it's just another obstacle course thing. But after I'd watched one, I was like, oh, actually, you know what? I want to keep going. And I've watched like most of them.
Not enough beasts in it though.
There's one massive beast. It's a big beast.
Yeah. Stallone?
No, well, he's not there.
Terry Crews is a big beast.
He is huge.
Yeah. Some huge guys. All right. Now, is that it?
I think that might be it.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is basically you made me a liar before.
Well, I try.
So, thanks for listening. Go to fruitlesspursuits.com to check out everything we're doing. New book was better tomorrow. Going to get to the bottom of Rugrats in Paris with Paris. Find out what that's all about. Not looking forward to reading that on a Sunday morning. And, thanks. You can also find links to our Facebook discussion page, iTunes, Patreon, all that sweet stuff. And, we'll catch you next week when we're going to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 2.
Uh-huh. Goodbye.
Yeah, Camelot.
There won't be another Camelot.
There we go.
Not another Camelot.
Oh my god, I can't take it. I want you inside.
Ah!